Took a while. Um, Welcome to Songs from the CoronaZone number 109. I'm going to share this over. Uh, I'm discovering new things about this setup all the time. I keep pointing over there. Mainly because apparently if I change anything, it gets twitchy. And so I got ready to go and hit go, and it sat there doing connecting. So I had to restart the whole computer. Looks like we're live. I'm hoping the audio's coming through. I'm hoping everything's coming through because, problem is I never really know until it's up. And that makes you all guinea pigs with me. How is everybody today? So this is story day. I appreciate, yep, I see. There we go. I see it. From the CoronaZone number 109. And there it is. I'm going to share this over. I'm going to share this over, and then I'm going to do roll call. And I'm pointing out the captions are auto-generated. Just saying. I mean, does that mean they're generated by a car? Or does a car have a generator? I mean, oh shit, I already did that. That's not where I wanted to go. Oops. Oops, I wanted to go here. Boom. So it seems to be on my page twice. Stories about my... I don't know if you saw the thing that says basically today is stories about my musical heritage. I want to tell you where it all came from and how it all sort of came to be. I've also got, I need to plug something in. Hang on. The epitome of slickness here in the CoronaZone. This is about as developed as, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. It's going to come out bad. I don't want to come out bad. So, hi, everybody. What is going on here? I'm going to open with a song, of course, like I normally do on Story Day. Today, though, the stories will be about, like I say, we're... using my favorite guitar. I have two favorite guitars. One of them I've had for 28 years. One of them I've had for a year. This is what I'm playing today. This is a Martin Single 017. It is all mahogany. It's in pretty seriously good shape. Even the decal, you can see the decal at the top is like, this thing's in pretty ridiculous shape. I got this out of the Recycler, which was the newspaper equivalent, the predecessor to Craigslist way back in the day. It's built in 1937. It's a 1937, so it's basically, what is that, 83 years old? I can't do the math that quick. It's 83 years old. And I hope I live long enough to see it hit 100. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. The other one, just for the record, that I may play today, I may not, because this isn't really Songs Day, I've had since April. You've seen this. This is my Gibson CF100E, has a built-in P90 pickup, has cool groovy little knobs, and this thing is... Oh, warden, let a prisoner down the hallway to his doom. That's, maybe I'll sing Merle Haggard later. But for right now, I want to sing a song about this month. This came to me last minute. I've done this song once before here. You'll know why I'm doing it in a little minute. I can't hold it on the road when you're sitting right beside me and I'm drunk out of my mind merely from the fact that you are here. And I have not been known as the saint of San Joaquin, and I'd just as soon right now pull on over to the side of the road and show you what I mean. La 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 la, la 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 la. July, you're a woman more than anyone I've I can't hold my eyes on the white line out before me when your hand is on my collar and you're talking in my ear. And I have been around with a gypsy girl named Shannon, daughter of the devil. It is strange that I should mention that to you. I haven't thought of her in years. La da 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 da. La da 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 la. July, you're a woman more than anyone I've ever known. I can't hold it on the road when you're sitting right beside me and I'm drunk out of my mind, merely from the fact that you are here. And I have not been known as the saint of the Imperial Valley, but I'd just as soon right now pull on over to the side of the road and show you what I mean. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. July, you're a woman more than anyone I've ever known. More than anyone that I'd ever known. July, you're a woman. July, you're a woman more than anyone I've ever known. Written and recorded by Jon Stewart, came out in 1969, and it is an all-time favorite. And this is really what we're going to be talking about today. Let me get the chat up so I can see what y'all are saying. I got to find you. Let me see. See, there can't really be we can't be in the Dan fam without having some kind of nonsense. Yes, yes, absolutely, Paul Schatz. Jon Stewart was an underappreciated gem. I think he invented Americana music because it wasn't as simple as folk, and it certainly wasn't just country. Usually had a little bit of a pop edge, rock edge, folk edge, kind of a blend of all of them. My son's birthday is a week from tomorrow. I don't know, what am I saying? A week from today. Going to be 24 years old. So, hey, Joe Sierra. Hi, Tom Briner, Ross Jennings, Jetty Hilliker, Joe Sierra again, Marlon Block, Missy Francis, Joanne. We got Michael Fasano. Sorry for the side of my face here, but I've got the computer a little far away because I don't want the hissing to come in. I guess I could move it a little closer. We're all friends. I can always move it back if it gets really, really weird. Got myself a little table on a little pedestal stand. Hi, Monty Barrett, Steve Peterson. Hey, Pat. Hey, Ron. Hi, Heidi. Maria. Ross Jennings, good to see you, bro. Sandy Ray. I think I told you the box came. I haven't opened it yet. Hi, Aaron. Great chat today. Lisa Garrett, good to see you. Who else is here? Debbie Newman. Oh my God, I have so much fun with this part of it. Bob Seinel, good to see you. Dan, Jenny, won't you come along with me? Jenny, woo, Jenny. I'll have to do Little Richard at some point in time. Hi, Shannon. Petite Mahogany Beauty. Yes, indeed. I gave Shannon a heads up because I sang her name in the song. I have been around with a gypsy girl named Shannon. It's an amazing song, but yeah, this is my little baby. It's the singolo is small bodied, and I have two singalos. I have a singalo 18 that I was going to play, and I decided I'd pull out the 1937 just for love and luck and fun. Well, I'll probably do another song at some point. You know, this is the day when I try to rest my voice a little bit, so it's going to be a lot of stories, and I know that I shouldn't continue to apologize when we're 109 shows in, and this is the 18th week that we're doing this. For those of you who don't know, by the way, I will be doing a full normal performance tonight for about an hour on the ARC's Facebook page. I think it'll also be shared to my Dan Navarro music page. And because we've been doing fan sets for the last 11 weeks, this is my set. This is a set where I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm looking forward to that. That's tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, over at the ARC at Facebook Live, but also at Dan Navarro Music. I think it's going to also stream out to other places like YouTube. It won't be going to my YouTube channel, but it'll be going to theirs. And all good. All good. Someone just sent me a text saying they gave me money. Isn't life difficult when you're having fun? No complaints. But you know what? That's also how I roll right about now. Everything is shitty, right? Well, I'm not going to complain because it's not like, there's an old line about, like this football team loses a game and the coach says, well, it was raining real hard. Well, it was raining on the other side of the field too. Everybody's dealing with this. We're all finding a way to deal with it. And this is how I deal with it. I'm going to come hang with you guys. I'm going to do the best work I can. I'm going to stay engaged. I'm going to stay focused and tell nonsense stories all night and all day. Let's get into the story time. This was going to be a story, and I didn't decide this till the last minute. Story about my musical heritage. Where did this all come from? I grew up in the 60s, really, truth told, tail end of the 1950s, really, most of the 1950s. First song I remember was, I think I was around 30. There were two songs that I remember really well. One of them was called Cindy, Cindy, oh Cindy, Cindy, don't let me down. Write me a letter soon and I'll be homeward bound. The other was my mom used to sing an Eddie Fisher tune, throw mama from the train, a kiss, throw mama from the train, a goodbye. Of course, this led to many puns on just throw mama from the train, get out of here. And one of my earliest memories, when I still lived in L.A., I lived in L.A. till I was 4.5 years old, and then we moved to Calexico, California, was 16 Tons by Tennessee Ernie Ford. Some people say man is made out of mud. Some people say man is made out of blood, skin and bone. I can't remember the next line that comes in. Well, there's 16 tons. What do you get? Another day older and you're deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. A lot of finger-snapping songs in those days. This was many years before Big Bad John by Jimmy Dean. Not the same as James Dean, although the name certainly brought me all kinds of joy. It was American Top 40 radio in the 50s, which was not yet. The rock and roll era had come and gone and had given way to the smooth crooner era. Now, I grew up because my parents played Sinatra records mostly. Would also play records by the crooners of the day, Jerry Vale, Steve Lawrence, Dean Martin, Tony Bennett, all of that sort of stuff. And so I grew up on that music. There were also sort of, novelty hits. How much is that doggy in the window? And things like that. Elvis had come and gone, and my parents were a little old for Elvis. Elvis was 1956, 1957. And, my dad was 35 years old. He wasn't really a rocker. So he knew about Elvis. He kind of made jokes about him, Elvis the pelvis, because he'd kind of wiggle his pelvic region. And the television shows were all instructed, show from the waist up, because basically you go down there, it's going to be obscene, which is kind of funny in a sort of twerking and wardrobe malfunction era. What was considered rude then is like, get out of town. I've done ruder stuff on stage, and you know me better than that. Although I am wearing pants today, just telling you, I'm wearing pants today. So, I grew up on that stuff. And then, long about the time I was 11 years old, going on 12 years old, this band came out of England called the Beatles. And it set my whole age group on its ear. Like, whoa, what on earth? Now, we knew about rock and roll, but this was something else. They didn't do steps. They seemed to bob and weave to their own drummer, and it was very, very, very joyful. And it was, you know, what the Beatles turned into, especially when they started getting a little bit darker and a little bit out and started experimenting, was a whole other thing. When they first came out, they were a bubblegum pop band and really, really, really good. So I ate all of that stuff up. I remember going to see Hard Day's Night when I was a little kid and just being transfixed by the energy and the image, and of course, in black and white, of these guys that were unlike anything we had ever seen. I went home, locked my ass in the bathroom, and tried to comb my hair down over my forehead. And boing. No, come on, get down there. Yeah, that looks boing. It wouldn't stay down. Of course, we weren't allowed to have our hair over our ears in my school, too. We had a dress code. Couldn't wear your shirt tails out. Girls, when miniskirts came in, some of them in high school were forced to kneel and measure from the floor. And if the measure came more than 3 inches above their knee, they were sent home. I once came in after a summer. I'd been putting my hair behind my ears, and they pulled it out, and it went 1/4 of an inch over my ears. And they go, "We're not going to send you home, but tomorrow get your hair cut." Okay. I mean, which is why as soon as I went to college, it was like, woo! I went ape. There are pictures, you can find them on Facebook and all over the place, of me in the early 90s. It would have been me in the 70s as well. Hair down to here. And, you know, this right now, I mean, it's wet. I took a shower late in the game. It's normally been out to here, looking very Rosanna Dana. But this is the longest it's been in a very, very, very long time. Just saying. So, having grown up with this, now the other thing is I grew up, of course, on American Top 40 radio that played everything. A little of this, a little of that. It was just the hits of the day. So, you know, by the time I was 12 years old, we were hearing Beatles. We were hearing Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. We were hearing some Sinatra. We were hearing Four Tops, Supremes, you know, Temptations. Occasionally some little novelty tune would work its way in. Sometimes, you know, Pat Boone would work his way in, and Frankie Avalon. And again, that was that late 1950s, very early 60s, smooth teen crooner. Bobby Rydell, Frankie Avalon, Fabian, Pat Boone in particular. Bobby Vinton, Bobby V. Good God, who else? You know, we didn't get much Buddy Holly, and he was gone by 1959. I heard the tunes. I heard That'll Be the Day. I heard, you know, Peggy Sue. Of course, we loved Richie Valens because he was Mexican. We loved that. And, you know, when the Beatles came in, it opened up a whole new world of pop music that kind of led to things like the Sir Douglas Quintet and Question Mark and the Mysterians playing 96 Tears, which was very Mexican. You know, these were the things that kind of informed what we did. Short, sweet pop songs, slam bam, thank you ma'am, milk the hook, get the hell out of town. And of course, things that got played at school dances. The early 60s doo-wop groups, you know, Danny and the Juniors, the Platters, the Coasters, oh my God, Yakety Yak, Peanut Butter, Alley Oop. And all of these songs were designed to hold our attention for a few minutes and then be thrown away. And they did. And I loved them because they were designed to hold your attention for a few minutes. I think of, yes, somebody just mentioned something. I think of a couple of songs in particular that were designed to be disposable. A few songs that were... lady told Annie about a thing she saw. Two big horns and a woolly jaw. Woolly bully, woolly bully, woolly bully, woolly bully, woolly bully. Watch it now, watch it now. Here's the thing. Those things were disposable songs. Those are three of the most lucrative copyrights in pop music because they get used in movies and TV all the time. Richard Berry, who wrote Louie Louie, sold his song, sold it outright, just sold it. Didn't even sell just the publishing, sold the song for $500 and regretted it when it turned into a multi-million-dollar song. Years later, there was an organization that specialized in working for legal aid for artists and writers. And they basically sued, and they regained him his copyright. In the last 15 years of his life, he made an enormous amount of money being able to license that song to films. You know, those are the songs, La Bamba chords, man. And the songs that we thought were disposable turned out to reflect a time and place. Well, I grew up on all of that. So good old American top 40 and English top 40 music was great. Sandy Ray, Wild Thing and Angel of the Morning were written by the same songwriter, Chip Taylor. I did a show with him about 10 years ago. He also wrote, not Just One Look, but, it was a Hollies hit. It wasn't Just One Look. It was something like that. Oh man, I gotta look that the hell up. Or maybe Maria, look up Chip Taylor and what else he wrote. So let me see what else we got here. See, I'm still back on, happy birthday, Jenny. Love you, dear. I'm still back looking at people responding to July You're a Woman. How do you get a hold of Resurrection Road? Barnes & Noble probably would not have it. If you want a hard copy, I would check the Kenny Edwards website. You probably can buy it on iTunes. A CD might be harder to find, but they're out there. I would also check eBay. I don't think you're going to be able to stop into a store and get it. Most of the stores that carry stuff like that carry such a slim selection that you're not going to find it. It's also on Spotify, which means it's going to be on Apple Music and Amazon and all of those services. But I digress. I get sidetracked really easy because I'm very, you know that. You all know that. So anyway, Beatles come in, shakes my world up. Somebody, I think it was Marnie, pointed out, yes, before Beatles, 1962, came a little band out of Hawthorne, California that was writing topical songs of the day about what the teens were interested in, which was basically girls, cars, high school, and surfing. And the Beach Boys came along. That they would become one of the biggest groups and most influential groups in history, that they would have as the main force a guy like Brian Wilson, who is out of his tree, but an amazing, amazing genius-level songwriter. A particular favorite of mine, many of his songs have absolutely rocked my world. In particular, God Only Knows is in my top 5 songs of all time. Caroline No blows my mind. I learned how to play it on the piano. I would have to bone up on that for a long time. I know. I said bone. I'd also have to move the camera so that we could see it. Although, I got a new mixer where I can conceivably set up a piano here as well and go back and forth between them. I'd have to figure out how to move the camera, or else perish the thought, get another human being in this house. So basically, top 40 music was teen music, but it was also, and the parents' music was on its way out, and that being Sinatra, Dean Martin, Tony Bennett, Edie Gourmet. Now, Edie Gourmet came out with a record in 1965 that rocked our family's world. I've done some of the songs here. She did a record in Spanish with the Trio Los Panchos, which is a Latin American bolero trio. 3-part harmonies, 3 different guitars of different sizes, and that's how they got all the sonorities in. One was a little tiny thing called a quinto, and they were wonderful, doing amazing songs. Songs I've done here: El Reloj, La Barca, Sabor a Mí. Oh my God, Amor, 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 cerca de ti, cerca de mí, de la esperanza. And of course another song called La Media Vuelta, la última noche que pasé contigo, quisiera olvidarla, pero no he podido. Now, because I grew up when I did, I heard a lot of Mexican music. And yeah, we would listen to mariachi, but it wasn't like mariachi was on the street. Mariachi was, the historic traditional music that people loved, parties and stuff. But you basically listened to pop music. And the pop singers in those days were Lucho Gatica, Amalia Mendoza, a guy named Rafael, who did a great version of La Llorona, which I've sung here. I grew up on all of that. And what it did was it left me with this sort of sense of wanting to sing. I started singing along with Frank Sinatra records when I was 10 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old. And as I'm singing along, I'm kind of going, is it my imagination or am I nailing this? I mean, I must have been up the octave. But I could cop the phrasing, I could cop the feel, and I knew I could sing from the age of 10. And it's like, there's something going on here. My school didn't have, I did mixed choir in 8th grade. I got to high school and there was no choir for boys in high school. Kathleen McMahon from Canada. I spoke to your husband, I think. I'm pointing at the screen over here. I love his song. It's nice to see you. Any friend of Stacey Taylor's? That's all I got to say. I'm going to scroll. I'm doing too many things at once, but you're just going to basically watch me just sort of, at one point, I'm going to, be the Energizer Bunny with a short, keel over. I'll calm it down a little bit. So I grew up with this cross influence, and I got pretty addicted to music and records. I start reading the backs of my parents' records. I start hanging out at the local record store, which was a full-blown music store where you could buy brass instruments and guitars and sheet music, and they had a record rack. In those days, those kinds of record racks were put together by entities, sub-distributors, called rack jobbers. Rack jobbers' job was for small retail accounts to basically do all the buying for them and say, this is what you're going to stock. Because there was too much to choose from. And you had to pick your direction. Were you going to focus on classical and jazz? Were you going to have only the hits of the day? A little store that would have maybe 2 browsers 15 feet long, and that would be the extent of their recorded music selection, needed a rack jobber to put it together for them. Well, I would go into my local record store and start reading the backs of records. Because I grew up in a small town, Calexico, California, I knew everybody in town. The owner of the record store was Fred Neckel, who had a local band called the Fred Neckel Orchestra. Fred played drums, and he put these combos together to play for local events. Lions Club dances, Women's Improvement Club soirees, weddings, quinceañeras, which is what you do when you're 15. It's a girl's coming out party for when she's 15. Quinceañera, 15-year thing. Baptisms, christenings, everything. Cinco de Mayo, carne asadas. And the Fred Neckel Orchestra would play. Well, Fred one day comes up to me and says, man, you're hanging out here every day for hour after hour. How about I put you to work? And I went, no, I'm good. I just want to read the records. If I have to work, I won't have much time to read the records. And so he accepted that. I can't believe I had the guts to tell him no. But then 2 things happened. First of all, I never sang in bands. I auditioned for one band. I want to say junior year. Might have been senior year in high school. And basically, I nailed it. I knew I nailed it. I'm sitting there going, I'm pulling this off. I had kind of a Jim Morrison voice because it was lower. And Eddie Ainza, it was his band. And they were auditioning me and Tony Lopez. And oh, I love it. Hang on. I'm getting distracted by Shannon Brackett's thing here. Yeah, Daughter of the Devil. I just invoked Bob Livingston's name a little while ago because I was trading notes with Erin Levang, who's on the webcast. She might have left, but she was still here, talking about the Jerry Jeff Walker Band and Jaded Lover. And I remember talking to Bob about that. I met Bob at Woody Fest, which I know, Shannon, you've played before. Anyway, I digress. I'm all over the place. What the hell? Get over it. Yeah, pants. I'm wearing pants today. Where the hell was I? Oh, yeah, I auditioned for this band with Eddie and Tony. And they said, yeah, we're going to go with Tony. I was kind of hurt because it's like, I kicked his ass. And I realized why. Because I wasn't cool. And Tony was cool. And I wasn't. No problem. Moved on. A little. Senior year hits. This was junior year. Senior year hits. Eddie and Tony were both in the high school band. Tony played trumpet. I played French horn. And Eddie played... the hell did Eddie play? Eddie played a lot of things. He played drums. But he played something else. I want to say like he played sax or something. He was a multi-instrumentalist. He was really talented. His wife has been on the webcast before, Sylvia. Anyway, so one day, Tony brings his guitar to school. Eddie picks up an upright bass, and they start singing a Young Rascals song. Well, I come in, I start singing third-part harmony with them, and they go, wow, you can do that? So we do a few songs, and we started a little something. We started, basically, we would play I Don't Love You Anymore by the Young Rascals. Things like that. I can't remember what else we used to play. We played Get Together by the Youngbloods. And we would play Las Mañanitas, and we would actually, that particular year, we snuck out of our houses at 6 o'clock in the morning. I borrowed my folks' car without them knowing, and shoved the upright bass into the trunk of a 1967 Chevy Caprice and drove to our parents' homes and the parents of, well, they had girlfriends, I didn't, and sang Las Mañanitas outside their bedroom windows to serenade them for Mother's Day. I remember as I was sneaking out my sister's upstairs window where I was then going to jump from the roof onto the lawn, and a cop comes by, and he sees the bass, upright bass in the back of the car sticking out, and he's looking like, what the hell is this? And I recognized him, Fernando Torres, who used to work for my dad at his Foster Free store. Oye, Nando, it's Danny. Danny, what are you doing up there? We're going to go serenade our moms for Mother's Day. Okay. Don't do anything stupid. And he drove off. That's what happens when you live in a small town. Well, senior year, we decided to go. Folk masses had started at the Catholic Church. And we went to our priest and said, we want to sing. I mean, they're doing songs like, Sons of God, here is Hollywood, gather round the table of the Lord, eat his body, drink his blood, and we'll sing a song of love. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Eat his body, drink his blood kind of got to me, but that's what we would sing. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. I can't believe I remember those. There were others. And we wanted to hippen the joint up a bit. So we said, okay, what if we do Get Together? What if we do the Youngbloods Get Together? Who said that? Marlon and Marnie. Truth told, yeah, speaking... I mean, I'm going to take a complete day off tomorrow. I won't speak to anybody. There's nobody here. I'm all by myself. I'm starting to talk to the food. Hey, sandwich, how you doing? Hey, tuna. Want to have a go with some mayonnaise and some relish? What do you think? Huh? Just you and me? Never mind. I won't even talk about what I say to the toast. But I digress. So the priest heard the lyrics to Get Together, and he went, great. Now, our church had just gotten a new building with ceiling-mounted speakers. So we'd go up to the pulpit. Ed would stand on one side playing upright bass. Tony would stand on the other side playing guitar. I didn't know how to play guitar then. I would sing lead, and because it was a microphone and it was going through the ceiling speakers, the sound was frickin' awesome. The sound was off the hook. What did Aaron say that's t-shirt worthy? I got to look at that now. The sound was off the hook. And I'm sitting there going, I want a piece of this. This is something I want to do. How long do I want to do it? I don't know, man. How about the rest of my life? That's what I'm thinking. So, oh, this won't scroll anymore. What did I do? Go new messages. I bet I can scroll up now. There we go. What's a Johnny 5? You guys talking shit that I don't know about? I'm going to have to go back and read every one of this. Yes, I talked to Alexa. I think I told you I got Google and Alexa to talk to each other. I'd said, hey, Google, say hi, Alexa. And Alexa goes, and he says, hi, Alexa. And he goes, hi, want to be my friend? And basically, Google Assistant is a male voice and Alexa's a female voice. So Google Assistant starts hitting on Alexa. What the fuck? Anyway, so I realized I want a piece of this, but I didn't know how to do it. I graduate high school. I go to UCLA, 250 miles away for college. And that's kind of it. I joined the college band, but I did not audition to sing. There was a men's glee club, and I thought, how can I be good enough for the glee club? It's 40 singers. The school has 30,000 day students. My town has 10,000 people. How could I be among the best 40 male singers on campus? So I didn't bother. Played in the band. Was living in the UCLA band house. They had a house that they rented out rooms to band members for. It was better than a dorm. Food, it's like a fraternity house, but geekiest fraternity on the face of the earth, just saying. Our idea of a prank was that we would get our instruments and play for a lunar eclipse or play after the earthquake. That was about it. So one day a guy's playing a song that I knew, an old Sammy Davis Jr. tune called If I Ruled the World, that I think might have been from Roar the Grease Paint Smell of the Crowd. I'm not positive about that. Definitely an Anthony Newley song. If I ruled the world. Figure out where David Bowie got his shtick from. So anyway, it was I'm getting texts here. I'm going to ignore. So he goes, you need to audition for the Glee Club. You'll get in. So I did, and I got in. And it became my main activity through college. I learned everything I know about blend, about harmonies, about making up harmonies, about hearing them in your head, about how singing with dynamics. I learned my fundamentals about performance. And I decided second year of college, it's time to learn how to play the guitar. Now, the other thing that happened during my senior year in high school is that a little band came out with a little record called Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And my world was permanently changed when I heard the impact of three voices, which I was doing with Tony and Eddie, and acoustic guitars, not electrics. Like everybody, I grew up on all the rock music, and I loved it. But there was something about the sound of acoustics that really, really spoke to me. So, beginning of sophomore year, I bought an acoustic guitar to learn, and I did. I also had a roommate with a pretty magnificent record collection, which was amazing considering we lived in a 14 by 12 room, three of us. We had bunk beds and everything. It was college. But he had a pretty serious record collection, and the first Martin guitar I'd ever seen in my life. I want to say about like a 1965 Martin D28. Guitar's worth about $10,000 now. I need to find him and see if he still got it. See if he'll sell it to me. You never know. Especially since that was the first Martin I ever played. I wouldn't mind buying it from him if he'd ever part with it. If he hasn't already. Already? Learning how to speak here. Wilkie Chong was the guy's name, Cheong. The other thing is that his parents owned a Chinese restaurant in San Francisco. So we would basically smoke weed, and we powered through a tin this big of almond cookies that, I'm not sure that I can eat almond cookies to this day, but it sure was good then. He turned me on to bands I'd never heard, to music I had never heard, not the least of which Jon Stewart's July You're a Woman. Found out he was a member of the Kingston Trio, and I was a Kingston Trio fan. Who knew? This was fantastic. Listened to his records and ate them up. In particular, California Bloodlines with the song California Bloodlines and July You're a Woman. She Believes in Me. Oh my God, Mother Country. Oh, Mother Country, I still love you, which was where the Americana thing came from. He turned me on to Ian Matthews, who has since become a very dear friend. And I went from these particular jumping off points. It was his group, Matthews Southern Comfort, that later had a hit with Woodstock, but they had a version of Something in the Way She Moves by James Taylor. I ate that up. Darcy Farrow by Steve Gillette and Tom Campbell. I know Steve now. I ate that up. My good old captain said to me, go down, you blood red roses, go down, and we'll plunder to a high degree. Go down, you blood red roses, go down, oh, books and poses, go down, you blood red roses, go down. English folk delivered a cappella, 3-part harmony. Ate it up. Turned me on to Jefferson Airplane, the stuff that was more than just Wouldn't You Love Somebody to Love, the stuff that I had never heard, Volunteers of America. The first Jefferson Starship record, which was not a remade band with Mickey Thomas, but was a side project of Paul Kantner's, the original version of Wooden Ships. Just a great song called Have You Seen the Stars Tonight? Quicksilver Messenger Service, and all of the San Francisco-based bands. Turned me on to 2 records that would change my life, among many others. By the Grateful Dead, American Beauty, and Working Man's Dead. With Uncle John's band, Truckin', Casey Jones, Ripple. These records blew me away. What I was hearing in particular was quiet, thoughtful music. Oh my God, I didn't even get to James Taylor. It turned out it was his second album with Fire and Rain and, Country Roads and all of that. And by the way, Something in the Way She Moves that Ian Matthews cut was a James Taylor song from the first album that came out on Apple. Well, a couple of things started happening. I started spending a lot of time in the record stores in Westwood Village, in particular the Warehouse, and buying albums for $2.19, $3, and just eating them up. I didn't have a record player at UCLA till I never had a stereo system of my own until I left UCLA. I was always using my roommate's systems. And so I started buying records and listening to Wilkie's and just being Mr. Sponge, absorbing all of these records and all of this music, and learning the songs. John Denver, Cat Stevens, Joni Mitchell, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Neil Young, and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young, and Ian Matthews, Southern Comfort. Oh, wait, he was in a band called Fairport Convention. Oh, wait, let's go back. Tim Hart and Matty Pryor, Steel Eye Span. Oh, wait. And to me, it was like the difference between the first part of The Wizard of Oz, it's in black and white, and when she opens those windows in the Land of Oz and it's in color. Life became very, very vibrant. And I became a virtual sponge. Around this time, I'm playing, so I'm learning all of these songs and starting to play out a little bit, playing covers in coffee houses, wine bars. One of my first gigs ever was playing songs with, I still had my Mexican Spanish guitar with steel strings that I paid $9.95 for. I had not figured out how to put a frickin' guitar strap on it, but I did. Playing in a shirt and tie at Christmas time at the local Bullocks in Westwood Village, playing for Christmas shoppers. And I'm sitting there going, what on earth am I doing? All I knew was that this is for me. Didn't know how I was going to do it. Didn't know what was going to happen. No clue. Around toward, now, as school is going on, 1970, third year of college, I start writing my own songs. They are on the average side. Nothing I wrote before 1973 have I ever played out. Well, not since. Good God, I'm trying to remember a song called Where We Can Begin. That was the first song I wrote alone. It's there's a technical term. Oh yeah, it sucks. It's a horrible song. Song called Inner Secrets. That was this rambling country song about smoking pot all day. I mean, I swear to God, it's oh my God. How long will this masquerade continue? Each night I'm getting harder to be alone. If you were here, I'd share my inner secrets. But you know I feel much better when I'm stoned. Can't believe I ever wrote that. I can't believe I ever played it for you right now, because truth told, that hasn't been played in any way whatsoever since about 1974. But we're telling stories, so this is what happens. This is what you get as I basically lift the lid on my dome. Absorbing the catalog, starting to get to know other singers and writers, and, you know, walking the walk, talking the talk, maybe not so much walking the walk, talking the talk. Then, the other thing that was happening in school was that there was a competition that UCLA put on every year called the Frank Sinatra Musical Performance Awards. And it was sponsored by Frank. $2,000 first prize, $500 second prize in pop vocals, classical vocals, pop instrumental, classical instrumental. 2, 4, 6, 8. Basically $10,000 in prizes in the 70s, when the $10,000 was something more akin to like giving $50,000 away now. $2,000. I mean, my first job out of college, I made $5,200 a year. So $2,000 was like 3 or 4 months of pay. It was a lot of money in those days. I would say it's pretty equivalent to the same as $20,000 today. I made the finals 2 years in a row and did not win, and was pretty heartbroken, but I was singing old pop songs, Sinatra-style songs. The closest thing to a folk song I did was a song that I had learned. It was a song that I had learned from an album by an Irish tenor, American Irish tenor named John Gary. That was a particular favorite of my parents. And I'd heard this song, and I thought, I can blend the two. I wish I was a red rosy bush by the banks of the sea. And every time my true love would pass, she would pick a rose off of me. I wish I lived in a lonesome hollow where the sun don't ever shine. And I don't remember the line. Love the tune. Haven't thought of that in years. But otherwise was doing things like The Summer Wind, Watch What Happens, pop standards. And as a reaction to losing twice, and I did feel like I lost, both times my accompanist, who was one of the most talented musicians on campus, said, "You were robbed." But it happened. I had really long hair at that point in time. And it's not out of the question that the judges, among them, I think Don Costa, the arranger for Sinatra, was one of them. One of the years, one of the winners was John Gilmore, who's a very talented guy whose father had produced Frank. So it was a little bit of an inside job, but that doesn't change the fact that John was richly talented. And as far as that style of music, he was the top guy on campus. We're still dear friends. He lives up in Portland now. I've known him a long time. So a couple things happened at once. Tail end of 1973, I fall in love. And it worked for about 3 weeks. And I was absolutely over the moon. And then it ended. And it never really she quit returning phone calls kind of a thing. It sort of died, and I was heartbroken. And I started that Christmas my father gave me a Martin D28 for Christmas. So I went nuts and wrote like 11 songs in 2 months and wrote, pouring it all out, getting it all out of my system. And then Jeff Barry, the songwriter who had written, you know, Da Do Ron Ron and Tell Laura I Love Her, and was part of the Brill Building, you know, in partnership with Ellie Greenwich, his wife, wrote for Don Kirshner's publishing company, the same place that spawned Carole King and Jerry Goffin, Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil. God, who else came out of that? Well, Neil Diamond, and Jeff Barry produced the first Neil Diamond record. Neil Sedaka and Howie Greenfield. Basically, these were the pop songwriters of the day, producing all the hits, including most of the stuff the Monkees put out, and others, many, many, many others. Well, he sponsors a songwriting contest, and I decide I'm entering it. $1,500 first prize. And I won. And that changed everything. That made me realize, oh my God, you can do this. Well, I won with a song I had written about this woman, woman, you know, 1973, I was 22. She was 23. And we ended up getting together in the wake of me winning the contest, and we were together for 3 years. Tumultuous 3 years. I wrote lots of songs about her, including my first 2 cuts. Let Her Ride is about her and it, because we kept having these, basically we would do well, then we would do poorly. I'd write a couple songs, she'd come back. We'd do well, we'd do poorly. She'd break up, I'd write some songs, she'd come back. Lather, rinse, repeat. Started a pattern. But it also set me on my way. The other thing that happened to me that was pretty influential is after I left UCLA, I started working at Tower Records in Westwood Village. Dave Coker, who was episode number 100 of these very shows, was my manager. And we were encouraged to open stuff for in-store play. As long as we were gentle with it, we could do it. And so I listened to everything. I ran the country section, and that's when I started moving from country folk rock, folk pop, your Crosby, Stills, and Nashes, your James Taylors, and I moved right into hardcore country and what I consider to be the best of hardcore country. In particular, what did I do with that thing? It's over there. You'll have to excuse me. No, I'll do it in the wrong key. I'm going to do it in the wrong key. I don't want to get up. I'm not wearing pants. This record came out while I was working at the record store, and I ate it up. Might have even come out the year before. I've been a fool. I've been a fool. Forgiving you each time that you've done me wrong. I've been a long time leaving, but I'll be a long time gone. I loved you so much. I loved you so much. I stayed around when I should have moved along. I've been a long time leaving, but I'll be a long time gone. Hello, highline, hello, highway. Here come a big old semi my way. Stick up my thumb, see the trucks come, trees going by, looking like a fly over the big legs on my Levi's. Woo, 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 woo. I've been a fool. I've been a fool. Forgiving you each time that you done me wrong. I've been a long time leaving, but I'll be a long time gone. Well, I learned. Everything I listened to taught me something else down the pike. I learned about gentle production and not overdoing it from that very album called Dreaming My Dreams by Waylon Jennings. Crosby, Stills, and Nash taught me about the value and the beauty of perfectly executed three-part harmonies, and that it wasn't just about them being pristine. Well, among the lessons I learned, first of all, the middle part, David Crosby, David moved all over the place. He didn't stick to the book, and it created richness. The top part, Graham Nash, Graham sang very, very, very loud. You take the part, you know, no, you got to run, no, you got to hide. That's one thing, but a whole lot different when it's delivered. No, you got to run, no, you got to hide, and really loud. Turn the wrong one. Somebody asked for something. I don't really know a lot. I can do Helplessly Hoping, but it's no fun without harmonies. I gotta make sure I got this right. I haven't played this in years. Four and 20 years ago, I come into this life, the son of a woman and a man who lived in strife. He was tired of being poor, and he wasn't into selling door to door, and he worked like the devil to be more. Different kind of poverty now affects me so. Night after sleepless night, I walk the floor and I want to know, why am I so alone? Where is my woman? Can I bring her home? Have I driven her away? Is she gone? Every song I learned taught me something new to do. This song is in an open D tuning, only D and A. A, D, D. No third. Can be major or minor. There's your minor. I haven't done that. When you're down and confused and you don't remember what you're talking to, concentration slip away because your baby is so far away, and there's a rose. There it is. Rose in the 5th Street glove, and the eagle flies with the dove, and if you can't be with the one you love, honey, love the one you're with, love the one you're with. Up high. One of the things I learned there is I I actually was taught by a friend, stick your thumb over, but just do some of the strings. So among what that taught me was, that's going the whole time. Every little bit of information starts finding its spot in the clutter trap that is my brain. Now, everything goes into its spot. Most of it can be recalled. Sometimes I just sit there and go, This is one of the reasons why I go off in my little squirrel hunts and digress into absolutely nothing. I'm like, but the point, I'm still on sponge alert and absorbing everything. Now, trying to make it, not getting anywhere, and then one day, my Uncle Mike, my cousin Dave's dad, says, I want to buy you a recording session. Go do a demo. Go record. You've been talking about it. It's not cheap. I can do this. So he bought me a recording session where I did, I think, either 3 or 4 songs. Might have been as many as 5. I'm trying to remember. I think it was 3 songs. I'm in the studio mixing. It was a heady experience. Probably an 8-track studio, possibly a 16-track called Silvery Moon on La Cienega behind the Aaron Brothers Art Mart. And around the corner was a publisher, a guy named David Chackler, who had a partnership with a guy named Lee Lasef. Lee Lasef had started White Whale Records, that was noted particularly for the Turtles. It Ain't Me, Babe, first single I ever bought. And, oh my God, it was a band called something like Lime and something or other. It was a duo. It was Warren Zevon's band. And I remember that there was a song that Warren had written called Like the Seasons. I have learned that love can turn like the seasons. Still I wish you'd stay. Tell me why you're going away. I loved that song from high school. So David says, hey, I kind of like this. Come see me. Wow, a music publisher wants to see me. This was 1976, 75, I want to say, going into 76. I having a hard time. I was pretty sure it was 75. Working at the record store. And relationship floundering. My girlfriend had decided to go to New York for what I thought was the summer. Turned out her intent was to make it permanent. She got a job. Her father was working as a publicist for a major art exhibition, the Hermitage exhibition that was visiting New York from Russia. So she got a job working that. And she was basically talking about moving permanently. She hadn't bothered to tell me. And we were living together, and it was, we were kids. And of course, I would just write songs and slice myself open with a can opener and pour it onto a page. And so I make these demos, and this guy says, come see me. So I'm scared, but I go, bring in this 5-inch reel-to-reel tape, lay it on him. This wasn't exactly pre-cassette, but I didn't have a cassette player. And he listens, he goes, yeah, I like it. I'm going to give you a publishing deal. Well, I had actually signed up with a publisher in name only. This was the brother of a friend's boyfriend. My friend Wendy Lewis had this boyfriend, and his brother was a music publisher out of Boston with a company called Indelible Inc. I think he was really more into the INC. He was more into the name. I didn't know what publishing meant. I'd signed this deal with him. Nothing happened. So I, basically called him up one day and said, somebody wants to offer me a deal here. And he goes, yeah, I'll let you go. So I signed up with Chalice Music. And a couple months later, they said, yeah, we got you a cut. I went, holy shit. I've been to one appointment. I've done one recording session. And somebody's going to record a song of mine. It was Rusty Weir, an Austin, Texas country artist. Didn't realize they had him for music production, which basically meant that they owned the publishing on the song, on the record they were putting out. So it was in their vested interest to put my song on this record, because they were going to generate publishing royalties. I would generate songwriting royalties. It wasn't much. It was in the dozens of dollars. The record didn't do that well. But I was on my way. I quit my job at Tower. I started working with a trio at a steakhouse, which I did that for about 6 weeks. Never, ever, 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 ever did that again. My friend Dan Carlson, who's been on these broadcasts, and I've talked about, we're still friends. We were in the trio together. And I went back to Tower when I realized I wasn't going to make any money. But it was the sort of meandering through these various styles of music, starting with American pop, starting with garage rock bands, going into acoustic music through college. At the same time, I was also getting turned on to a kind of classical music that spoke to me pretty deeply, namely American and English 20th century classical music that was based on folk song. What's the common thread here? Folk song. Crosby, Stills, and Nash had started out their lives as folk singers, folk rockers. Folk singers first. Stephen Stills was a folk singer in New York. Graham Nash was a pop singer out of England. David Crosby had been a folk singer in a group called the Beefeaters, and then he went to this other band, this new band called the Byrds, that was doing country rock, folk rock, before it was country rock. By the way, Wilkie Chong, as I go back to my old friend Wilkie, turned me on to, you like the Byrds? Check this record out that came out 2 years ago. It's called Sweetheart of the Rodeo, with, stuff by one ridiculous figure named Graham. We'll be here all day if I have to tune. I never identified the ridiculous figure, and I mean ridiculous as a compliment. Graham Parsons. In South Carolina, there are many tall pines. I remember the oak tree that we used to climb. But now when I'm lonesome, it always begins that I'm getting the feel, hickory wind. It too set me on my ear. The background I'd had in high school of going and reading the backs of records and going, this person played on this. This person sang on that. That person wrote this. Had me doing basically family trees in my head. And the exposure to Wilkie Chong's record collection started a whole process. And from that, I had also, by the way, adding to it, had been a fan of Linda Ronstadt's in high school. Well, all of a sudden, I start realizing she's part of something. She's singing Woody Guthrie songs, Eric Anderson songs, because she didn't write. She's singing songs by all these people that are blowing my mind. That all led, Graham Parsons and Linda Ronstadt led to Emmylou Harris, which led to Rodney Crowell, which led to the Seldom Scene, because Linda and Emmylou were singing with members of the Seldom Scene. I saw the Seldom Scene on a record cover on the 1974 recording of Heart Like a Wheel by Linda Ronstadt. And I'm working at the record store a year later. Seldom Scene, they're a bluegrass band. Never heard of them. I'll buy these. And I bought the whole damn thing. Like 5 albums at once. Ate them up. Ate them up. Ate them. He rode all the way to Texas on an old freight train. Didn't miss the girl he left behind. He rode all the way to Texas, didn't shed a tear. He's letting you know he's the moving kind. A light shines from my window, I just can't sleep no more. Oh Lord, it hurts so much to be alone. But the real men never do admit that it's them that might be wrong. At least that's what he told me in his song. He rode all the way to Texas on an old freight train. Didn't miss the girl he left behind. He rode all the way to Texas, didn't shed a tear, letting you know he's the moving kind. Well, I'm letting you know we're the moving kind. Hey, hey, hey. What I found as I kept digging and digging and digging and digging was a rich music, frankly based on American folk, English folk, Scottish folk, Irish folk, with a heavy dose of what became country music, real country music. Now, around 1972, country music got a big shot in the arm by basically taking Graham Parsons' vision that was realized in the Flying Burrito Brothers, and by the way, the version of someone, you don't know what it's like, somebody, to love somebody, not somebody to love, that's a different song. I'd always loved the Bee Gees, but it was Graham Parsons' Flying Burrito Brothers version of To Love Somebody that had me start doing that song. It was Graham Parsons and the Flying Burrito Brothers version of Sing Me Back Home by Merle Haggard that had me going back there. And I start eating up Merle Haggard, Mama Tried, you know, I Am a Lonesome Stranger. Oh, Jesus, that wasn't fun. That's not a good thing to do with a valuable guitar. And this. I learned this off a Flatt and Scruggs record, or actually it was an Earl Scruggs record, solo, that he had guests on, called Earl Scruggs and Friend. Silver wings lying in the sunset, roaring engines heading straight out of sight. They're taking you away, leaving me lonely. Silver wings only straighten out of sight. Don't leave me, I cried. Don't take that airplane ride, 'cause you and left me standing in the rain. Silver wings flying in the sunlight, roaring engines heading straight up in flight. They're taking you away, leaving me lonely. Silver wings slowly fading out of sight. Merle Haggard. Who knew? To me it was Linda Ronstadt. But by digging and digging and digging and following the thread all the way through, I discovered Jackson Browne. I discovered Livingston Taylor. I discovered Bonnie Raitt. Cat Stevens led me into other things, especially once I found out that he had written a song that I loved in high school called Matthew and Son. And it was the basic web of what happened when I found these little silos of things that I liked and started following them down and learning more about them that led to a foundation that I still draw on to this very day. When you start out songwriting, you start out imitating. And there's no question I imitated. But then you start developing your own vision. What lyrics matter to me? What stories matter to me? What feel matters to me? And I saw my way through the 1970s doing that. It became country music, country rock. The thing that happened in 1972, I started to say this, on the vision that was created by Graham Parsons. It was a little tiny band nobody ever heard of called the Eagles. And I ate that up like soup at lunchtime. 2 spoons and bread to soak up what was left. I also developed a love for Poco. And those guys had all come from the Buffalo Springfield. I discovered what a lot of people did, which is what happens when you basically take the family tree of the Byrds and mix the family tree of Buffalo Springfield together, and suddenly you have 1970s California music. Wasn't a New York state of mind. New York had different things it was doing. Eric Anderson, David Blue, Freddie Neal. Stephen Stills had spent time in New York. And there was always the Canadian connection via Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, Ian and Sylvia, Ian Tyson, 4 Strong Winds, oh my God, never mind, Someday Soon. And the great interpreters like a Judy Collins, who also didn't really write, who was singing Leonard Cohen songs, Sandy Denny songs, Who Knows Where the Time Goes, Bob Dylan songs, Ian Tyson, and then some, and then some, and then some. All I wanted to do was be that and those people and find a way to do that. The other thing that was interesting about that time was that was considered, at the record stores, they stocked that in the rock section. James Taylor was considered rock because it was as current could be. It wasn't stored in the folk section. The people that had the greatest influence on me were of that ilk. It was all of the singer-songwriters, most of which, by the way, if you check out YouTube, you'll find an amazing collection called the BBC Singer-Songwriters that had live in studios, impeccable sound of everybody. We're talking Neil Young, Eagles, Joni Mitchell, Carole King, Elton John, Cat Stevens, James Taylor, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Go seek out those videos. You can find them on YouTube. It was the foundation that taught me what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. Then something happened, and it wasn't necessarily good for me at the time. A couple of things happened. I had my cut in 1976 and another one in 1977, and nothing happened. Then music changed, and 2 things happened at once. California rock was being started to look at as cloying and formulaic, and punk came up and out. Punk started in 1976 or so. By 1978, it hit critical mass and was leading to what we called at one point new wave, but it was really post-punk. Elvis Costello came out in 1977. Never mind that his backing band on the first record was a band called Clover from San Francisco that was in fact a roots band. But he was like, uh-oh, the writing's on the wall. And my gentle little sissy music was starting to become passé. The other thing that happened was a lot of my folk rockers and folk pop people started jazzing it up. We call it yacht rock now. But James Taylor kind of went from doing things like, well, we did just the other day. It was just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. Suzanne, the plans they made put an end to you. All of a sudden became, do me wrong, do me right now. Hold me close, jazz chords. Say you goodbye for the morning light, but don't let me be alone. jazz chords, major seventh chords. And I didn't know what the hell to do. I didn't know what the hell to do. I tried both. I kind of, funked it up a little bit, It seemed to me that if you had some thunk, you could be viable. And so I started trying to write that. I was also writing like... It didn't fit real well. I turn my window. I also tried to switch to piano. That's when I wrote that song Paradise. I'm using more chords, trying to become musically sophisticated. It wasn't working very well. And a few things happened at once. I went through a dumb breakup. It was my fault. I broke up with her. And when I thought I wanted to come back, she wasn't having it. And wait a minute, no. Still dear friends with that person to this day, so I make jokes. But it was painful at the time. It was my fault. It was my fault. So I started writing that stuff, but it's not working. My publishing deal isn't working. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not getting the cuts anymore. I'm no longer the fair-haired boy. I also didn't make any money. I went to work at this restaurant where I met Eric Lowe, and we started singing together. But I said, let's start a band. And he goes, nah, I don't want to. Okay. Then I went to work for a music manager, part-time. 4 days a week, doing 3 days a week at the restaurant, working 7 days a week for about 6-7 months, literally every day. And he says, I'm leaving the office. I'm going to go work for a big company in London. And I panicked. What am I going to do? My music's dead. I don't know which direction to go. So I basically gave notice at the restaurant and told my friend, I'm going to come work for you in London. I went to London, all of 1980, most of 1980, worked as his assistant, and started absorbing what was post-punk over there. And it was starting to affect how I wrote. And it was, it was a lot of, The week that I moved to London, Brass in Pocket was #1. And, the Pretenders were considered a post-punk band at that point in time. Now, there was a mentality there that I didn't really know about, which was they just referred to it as pop. We would call it, oh, that's so new wave. And again, as part of it is that we were still stuck in the old ways, and we saw the new way as different. They tended to think of the new way as an evolution, and I learned that and discerned that. But I was still pretty confused. What on earth do I do? I spent a year working there and moved back when my visa was dodgy. I didn't bother to get proper work papers. I had to leave the country. They allowed me to stay for 9 months, and then it was time to leave. And so when I went back to America, I joined a band with Eric called Bonmont. My dear friend Mark Bryson was the lead singer and the main writer. Eric and I were sidemen. But his attitude was, we're not ready to start a band. Let's join a band, get our feet wet. Spent 3 years doing that. The process was trying to get a record deal. We wound up sounding like two bands. Without meaning to, because they came out after we did, but because they were hitting it, and we didn't even have a record contract, we sounded like we were copying them. The two bands were Men at Work and Huey Lewis and the News. So we had a terrible, terrible time. We were playing out. We got close to a couple of deals. We did one show, and I think the A&R guy said some positive things, so our manager came up to us and said, you just got a record deal. We were over the moon, and then we discovered, well, it's not that easy, and we didn't get a record deal. You have to actually negotiate and sign the contract, and they have to actually still like you the next day. It's a little like, thanks for a great night. I might call you tomorrow. I might not. And that A&R guy had a great night, but he didn't call us back. So that's the way that went. And after 2.5 years, basically all of 81 and all of 82 and into 83, I'm working with this band. We're doing basically post-punk. I can't even remember any of the songs anymore, but never knew I like you. Never thought it'd be so hard to be so true. Losers, I can't. She's just a girl. She's nothing special to me. She's just a girl. She's just a girl I need. Whatever. We liked the songs at the time. I've never played any of them out. I contributed a song called Connie Wants a Boyfriend that I had written in '79. And a song called Sal's Lucky Day that was about a time I picked up a hitchhiker and it turned out she was a stripper. And I dropped her off where she was going, which was work. And I drove away and went, "You idiot, go back there." Well, I went back there. I never dated her or anything like that. I hung out and was, dipped a toe into the seedy underbelly and went, "I don't know, this is scary. I think I could better just go home." But I wrote a song about it. Oh God. It was Sal's lucky day. It was Sal's lucky day. He went home on a different route. A slightly damp dream with her right thumb sticking out. And she said, "Wait a minute, buddy. I've got to work by 5. She said, "Pleased to meet you, by the way. I'm a topless dancer." It's called Sal and the Topless Dancer. Sal's Lucky Day. Weird shit. It was the 80s. But it's not really working. And one day in 1983, I'd had some personal stuff go on. My uncle's ex-wife was tragically killed. We were all grieving and dealing with the aftermath of that. My cousin's mom. And we were all pretty close. And the band says, "We need more of a commitment from you." Now, you've heard me tell this story before. "We need more of a commitment from you." And I went, "Well, I can't do that. I'm working for my uncle. I'm kind of number 3 guy in the company. 3 months later, I became the number 2 guy in the company. It's becoming a career. And I'm sitting here distracted by Deb Ewing. I'm going to find a version of Sal's Lucky Day and play the whole thing. I can't remember it all. So Eric says, "The band wants more of a commitment from you, or you might have to think about quitting." And I went, "Well, I'll save you the trouble. I can't do any more than I'm doing. I'm already pretty pressed." So I quit. And I was miserable, angry. I was 30 years old, getting ready to turn 31. And I figured, okay, well, you had your songwriting contest when you were 21 going on 20 when you were 21. You had your cut when you were 24. You went to go live in England when you were 28. You're 30 now. It hasn't worked. I think you're done. And that was it. Until one day, Eric Lowen said, "Hey, why don't you come over and write a song with me?" I didn't want to do it. Eric had written 5 songs in his life up till then. I've said for years he'd written 4 songs in his life, and I'd forgotten one. So he had, but we got together in that evening in September of 1983. I just turned 31. And in 90 minutes, we write We Belong. And that obviously changed our lives a year later. I'm still not necessarily any more settled on what to do musically. I'm still trying to write, because we wrote a hit song, suddenly I'm thrown in with the pro songwriters, and I'm trying to write Tina Turner's next hit or Bonnie Tyler's next hit, or trying to see if Pat will do another one of our songs, or writing songs to get cuts, quarter flashes next song, you know, whoever it is that does outside songs. And a lot of people were working with R&B artists, you know, so could I write for Jody Watley or, you know, Jermaine Dupri or whomever? This is what was going on at the time. I was getting a couple of cuts here and there, but it wasn't necessarily working. We got very lucky and started working with the Bangles. But in 1986, a couple things happened at once. Tracy Chapman put a record out. It was very successful. And I'm kind of going, well, like, hello? It's the same thing we were doing 8 years ago. And then Tom Petty puts an album out with this song called It'll All Work Out. That's acoustic guitars and mandolins. No drums. And I'm going, hello? We can do something here. And then later in 1986, I hear a band. I went to a show at Parity Hall in Kansas City, and heard a new band called the Bodines, who had a record that was doing very well, getting written up in Time magazine and things like that. And it's like, wow. And I went and heard them, and here was roots. It wasn't folk, but it sure wasn't Duran Duran or In Excess or any of the other stuff I was hearing in the 80s. And it wasn't a throwback to 70s music. It was just plain old good old American, four-square American rock and roll, but with a roots bent. Not country, but definitely a roots bent.
Jenny was a woman who he was living with a hard guy. Jenny got beat up one too many times. She's a runaway. She's a runaway.
Wasn't country, but it wasn't not. And things started to gel again. Tom Petty's doing mandolins. Tracy Chapman's doing, you know. I can't do it. Fast Car. I never played that before. So all of this stuff is starting to filter in. And I fell in love with the Bodines. I had a friend who worked at the label, so I got invited to a couple of shows. I went to go see him in American Bandstand. Of course, they knew that I'd written We Belong, co-written We Belong, but the long and short of it was I also started to appear a little bit too much like a sort of stalker fan. But I took Eric to a show down at the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano, and I said, check this out. And he listens going, dude, we can do this. Now, long about the time that the band that came up in the wake of We Belong, which was called 20 Times, started faltering, he said, look, we're making a living as songwriters. We had started working with the Bangles. We had songs coming out on their records, and we knew that we were going to make some money on it, and it was going to do well. And it was kind of pushing our star back into the ascendancy. And he said, you know, why don't we start playing as a duo? 20 Times, who knows what's going to happen with 20 Times? It's not going so well. And we're making a living as songwriters. So let's just start playing out, the two of us, and do what we've been talking about doing since 1978, 79. Let's go be this duo. We'd been talking about it for 8 or 9 years and never doing it. So we started playing a local corner place. It was a seafood restaurant. We played in the bar in the evenings. We would actually, I think the restaurant did last service at 9, and we would play until midnight because they kept the bar open. Well, damned if that didn't become our main thing. It started feeling good, and people slowly started showing up. We started doing a weekly there, a weekly residency for 2 years. By the time we were a year in, we were packing the place. By the time we were at 18 months, we had record companies starting to sniff around us. Okay, let's give it a shot. And we thought we might make one record, and it's turned into all of this. We played at the Breakaway. We started playing there 32 years ago. We started touring behind commercially released records, getting real radio 30 years ago this May. Who would have thunk it? But the path that we took, the circuitous path, I saw somebody ask Eric's version of it. Eric grew up on the same stuff. He had more of a New York bent because he was from New Jersey and New York. But in the mid-'70s, he started playing with a guy. He had a college singing partner who was actually a very, very prominent, universally loved folkie named Christine Lavin. Those of you who know about Christine Lavin don't know that she and Eric were singing partners at Brockport State University outside of Rochester, New York in 1972 and 73. Got a picture of the two of them together. And she became a leader, a den mother, a co-conspirator with all the artists in the folk world, branded as folk, out of New York, from the 70s particularly all the way into the 80s. But in 76, she told Eric, I know a guy looking for an acoustic guitar player. Just somebody to play acoustic and sing backups. His name's Bert Summer. Now, Bert had been in the cast of the original version of Hair. He had been the first artist to perform at Woodstock. And he had a regional hit called We're All in the Same Band in upstate New York, around the capital region, around Albany. He was quite the medium-sized deal. And he had signed a deal with Capitol Records. And so he put this band together that was on retainer, and they all moved to L.A. So Eric moved to L.A. Their manager was a guy named Artie Ripp, who was noted for having managed the earliest versions of Billy Joel, and wound up locking him up in an airtight contract that meant for the first 7 years that Billy was a hit, you'll see his logo, Family Productions, on the albums. He had to pay Artie a percentage on everything, even though they stopped working together. I don't know if Artie's still alive, but he's definitely legendary as far as being one of the great sort of, let's just say, music business wheeler dealers. Not universally loved necessarily. But so Bert was working with Artie. Eric lived in his van in Artie's parking lot, Artie's driveway, and he would go into the house to shower. And, basically he was just living the itinerant musician life. One day they go into this singing waiter restaurant, and Bert starts making jokes. Look at these schmoes. That's you and me in 2 years. 2 years later, Bert got dropped, and Eric went and applied for a job, and he got it. His job that he was given was replacing me while I went on a tour with Severin Brown for 3 weeks in the Pacific Northwest. Well, you've all heard the story that I didn't really like him when I first met him because he had my job, and he was better looking and taller and had a better guitar, and he had a high tenor voice. But we did forge the ability to work together and develop this lifelong friendship that is now history and legendary in its own way. So his background was different with some overlap. We also had an area of what we loved musically that was unpredictable. We both had a fond affection, a guilty pleasure for old 1960s and early 70s bubblegum. I'm talking all the bubblegum. I Think We're Alone Now. You know, Gimme Gimme Good Lovin'. Build Me Up Buttercup. Yummy, 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 I've Got Love in My Tummy. 1, 2, 3, Red Light. And all of these disposable pop songs that had permeated the late 60s. We actually used to do a version of I Think We're Alone Now that we had mashed up into a version of, we had mashed it up with Is She Really Going Out With Him by Joe Jackson, which, you know, I played last week or 2 weeks ago. Can't remember when it was. So this common ground is what caused us to be able to mesh. There was also one particular artist that we both loved. He actually knew the guy, and I didn't. But I'd fallen in love with their biggest hit, which is actually considered one of the best songs ever written. Because Bert was friends with the guy who had put this song out initially in his band, the Left Bank.
And when I see the sign that points one way, the lot we used to pass by every day, just walk away with me. You won't see me follow you back home. The empty sidewalks on my block are not the same. You're not to blame.
We both loved that song. We both realized that it was much more complicated than we had ever figured. It was written by somebody who knew classical music. And it turned out he had. Michael Brown was the guy's name, and his father was a classical violinist. So Michael was well trained. Michael wrote Walk Away Renee when he was 16 years old, about a girl in the neighborhood named Renee that he was in love with. And he once took Eric to the old neighborhood at Sheepshead Bay, outside of Brooklyn or in Brooklyn or part of Brooklyn, where they have a lot of one-way streets. And he said, okay, so this is where I lived. That was Renee's house over there. This house wasn't here. It was an empty lot. The lot we used to pass by every day as we would walk to school. And it gave Eric a chill when he heard that story. When he told me the story, I got a chill, because it's one of the highest moments in music history. And it came out of a real story told by a 16-year-old. So Michael is friends with Bert, and so Eric's friends with Bert. So I become friends I was friends with Bert. I become friends with Michael, and Eric is friends with Michael. And we're learning this song as we decided to start upping the ante at the restaurant and learn some songs. Really learn rather than just winging it. And the list we came up with was old bubblegum tunes, old 60s tunes, things like Walk Away Renee, where we learned how the harmonies were constructed by analyzing it and realizing, holy crap, this is serious, serious stuff. So those were the overlaps for us. The biggest overlap for us was Ray Charles, who we both revered. Other than that, our taste reflected divergent, different upbringings in different parts of the country with different family dynamics and different personalities. His father was a Baptist minister. My father had been a boxing promoter. I'm from the southwest of the U.S. He's from the northeast. Couldn't get more opposite. All of these things contributed to a stew that ended up working really, really well for us. Let's see if there's anything I can address for anybody. I can't seem to get this. Oops, let me try. I hope I didn't kill it. There we go. And it's not liking me trying to... Oh, there we go. Hey, now. 1910 Fruit Gum Company, yes, indeed. The Archies was Sugar Sugar. And what's interesting about that is the producer who did the Burt Summer record that Eric played on was Ron Dante, who had been the voices of the Archies. He sang lead on Sugar Sugar. I got a brand new pair of roller skates. I worked that into Watching as the Hearts Go By. That's Melanie Safka, who probably would have been best known for Candle in the Rain. That was lay it down, lay it all down, let your white brother smile up. You know, let your black brother. I'm not sure which. It's a racial equality, openness, racial brotherhood song that she put out. I want to say 69 or 70. In 1971, she puts out Brand New Key, and it was pretty wild. Dan and Sev on tour, yeah. We did the earliest version of Paradise. Our best show was we opened for Crystal Gale in Corvallis, Oregon, probably around 3,000 people in the audience. And she had a couple of backing singers named Val and Birdie. And Birdie actually lives in Nashville, and we communicated on Facebook no more than about 2 months ago. I did my song, and they're backstage, and the audience roared, and it's like, this was a pretty serious headspace. But again, I was quitting. This was 77. This was 78. I hadn't gone to London yet, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I took a lot of time off. I didn't really write heavily between 1978 and 1984. Everything I was doing was occasional and sporadic, not very good. Until one day, in the midst of occasional and sporadic, Eric and I write We Belong. Ready for it. Still blows my mind. Should never have happened. That it happened was either just the flukiest of good luck flukes, or divine intervention, or whatever you want to say. You know, it's pretty wild. I'm going to go back and see what's going on lately in the chat. I'm so glad you guys are communicating. Yes, Jeff Worthy, I'm looking at what you're saying, and that's all true. That's all true. The next time I saw the Bodines after 1986, and that little flurry of me being Stalker fan, was when we opened for them at the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano. And I went up to them and go, hey, remember Kansas City? They went, sure do. That forged a fast friendship with Sam in particular. I haven't seen Kurt in a long time. They split very acrimoniously, and I've managed to stay in better contact with Sam. But yep, that was us. Oh, man. Yep, they played the Coach House, and we opened for them. That is some, well, you know, that was witness. I mean, you were witness to something. Oh, you gave Ellis Paul a Melanie Live album, To Sir With Love. Oh, Lulu. God, she had another song called Oh Me, Oh My, I'm a Fool for You, Baby. We pull a genie from a cigarette. We'll take a magic carpet ride. We'll tell our smoky friend, now don't forget, you must keep him by my side. Oh me, oh my, I'm a fool for you, baby. You know, part of it is that my brain, I know we have not defined what the it is. My brain, my heart, my soul, all have managed to find a thread that is best served, best enriched, best utilized in service of the pop song. To me, that became my art form. I do other things. I draw, I write, I design. But to me, the true essence of where my métier, if you want to call it that, you know, the reason why I'm on this earth, is all incumbent in the pop song. and I count folk songs and even classical pieces that are based on song structure. There's a song, a couple of songs. I mean, I have a particular favorite classical piece, two, many. Appalachian Spring by Aaron Copland, that's based on the Shaker folk tune Simple Gifts. A gift to be simple, to be simple, to be free. An amazing tune. All of Appalachian Spring, most of it is based on that piece. Ralph Vaughan Williams, Vaughan, he's actually pronounced Rafe because it's British, who has a piece called the English Folk Song Suite. I played that in high school, I played it in college. The second movement is based on a folk song. Day when I was out walking, I spied a maid in Bedlam. I love my love because my love loves me. Called alternately A Maid in Bedlam or I Love My Love. An amazing version of that is out there by John Renbourn. And John Renbourn was one of the preeminent, there were two basic groups of entities that were promoting the notion of English folk music in latter-day 60s pop and rock. Fairport Convention, which was, oh my God, Richard Thompson, Sandy Denny, Ian Matthews, my friend, Dave Maddox, I want to say Ashley Nichol, trying to remember, there were more. There was Steel Eye Span with Tim Hart and Matty Pryor, but there was also Pentangle with Bert Jansch and John Renbourn. Oh my God. And these figures drew on English folk music to create a music that was considered viable in the late 60s, mid to late 60s. I ate that all up. Well, when I found classical pieces that drew on the same folk songs, I was pretty blown away. The other classical composer was Gustav Holst, who's best known for The Planets. I can't. The Planets, the Jupiter movement of the Planets is worth seeking out. I mean, I'm not going to find it here, and I'm not going to play it for you, and I thought I could bash out a guitar version of it, but I can't. But these were based on folk song. The New World Symphony by Antonin Dvorak, the Ninth Symphony, called the New World Symphony, was based on a song called Going Home. That was an American folk song. American folk song is based to a great degree on English folk song and Irish folk song and Scottish folk song, as these melodies wove their way through the history of our humanity, that pretty much, it did two things at once. It stopped and it started at the same time. It stopped being a mutating art form when recording came in. A father and son team, John Lomax and his son Alan Lomax, went out into the field with these tape recorders and recorded people's folk songs that had been handed down from generation to generation and from neighbor to neighbor, telling local stories using borrowed bits of music. Well, once he started recording them, they stopped mutating. They became copyrighted pieces of music. But the impact and the influence of popular music on folk song, because of the influence of folk song on popular music, has created this amazing soup, I like to call it. But I was talking about Gustav Holst, and Holst had a piece in a piece called Second Suite for Military Band. It was a band piece, no violins. How did it go? Well, I was listening to a piece the other day by a classical composer named Frank Butterworth, George Butterworth, Frank Bridge, George Butterworth. And I can't even remember, I'm not going to remember the name of it, but I asked Alexa, play me some George Butterworth. Brought up this piece, and damned if it didn't have that same melody that had been in the second movement of the Second Suite for Military Band by Gustav Holst. I'm going to find the name of the damn piece, but not before my guitar falls down. Come on. I got to find this. We're at 2 o'clock. We're going to end shortly. I don't have to end, but I think I've probably talked you guys out. And imagine your eyes rolling back in your head. George Butterworth. George Sainton K. Butterworth, born in 1885, died in 1916. He was only 31. Good Lord, I never knew that. Noted for a piece called A Shropshire Lad. I got to find the name of this piece. I've got to find the name of this piece. On the Banks of Green Willow is the name of the piece. Beautiful, beautiful pieces of music that were the quintessence of 20th century pastoral symphonic music, lush orchestrations without being sappy. And the people who specialized in that became my favorites. Ralph Vaughan Williams, Gustav Holst, Edward Elgar, Frank Delius. I keep thinking they're all named Frank. What was Delius' first name? Delius, who had a piece called On Hearing the First Cuckoo in Spring. Frederick Delius. Frank Bridge. George Butterworth. All of these composers composed a particular kind of music that's very much early 20th century. Lush, rich, beautiful, and based on familiar pieces of music. You take that, and on the American side, Ferdy Groffet, Roy Harris, who was a professor at UCLA when I was going there, is, again, another quintessential 20th century American composer. The best and my favorite, Aaron Copland. I probably got everything that Aaron Copland ever composed on record. I definitely have everything Ralph Vaughan Williams ever composed, because I ended up buying a 10-album set of his complete symphonic works and another 10-album set of his complete choral works. These are the pieces and these are the musics that informed where I come from. Yeah, I listened to Wooly Bully. Yeah, I listened to Watching the Detectives. Yeah, I loved Bob Marley and Led Zeppelin and Beatles and Stones. But I've got to say, yeah, and I love Muddy Waters and B.B. King and the blues. But the blues didn't inform what I do creatively as much as folk did. And it was mainly because of its lush beauty. Now, for some reason, that's what my soul needed. It's possible that my soul needed more comforting than liberation. And so that's where I go. That's why I write what I write. And that, my friends, is the travelogue into where I come from musically. I didn't really know that this is where I was going to go until after I woke up this morning. I hope it's been of value to you. I hope it hasn't been a bore. I know that I'm going to dig out some of these songs. I'm actually a little bit afraid to look down at the new messages and go, oh yeah, boredom. Nope. My favorite Aaron Copland pieces. Yep, Heidi mentions, well, Heidi's a symphonic player. El Salón Mexico, Rodeo, which actually should be pronounced Rodeo. Rodeo is a high-end street in Beverly Hills. Rodeo, there's another street called Rodeo, but it's more rodeo. I mean, the word in Spanish is rodeo, which is basically the same word as roundup. But, you know, Appalachian Spring is 25 minutes of the most beautiful music you'll ever hear. It was a ballet that was written for Martha Graham's dance company. In its first incarnation, it's a 13-piece chamber orchestra, and then it was fleshed out. But if you watch your reading list, and you can maybe go back and look at this later, Appalachian Spring by Aaron Copland, The Planets by Gustav Holst, who has a German name, but he was an English composer. Oh my God, The Lark Ascending by Ralph Vaughan Williams, Vaughn. On the Branks of Green Willow by George Butterworth. On Hearing the First Cuckoo in Spring by Frederick Delius. Oh my God, 5 pieces from Henry V by William Walton. Some of the most beautiful music you will ever hear. You want to know what to put on when it's dusk, sun's gone behind the horizon, or it's raining outside, and you want something that's got sweetness? Light some candles, stick a fire in the fireplace, roast yourself a chicken, and listen to that music. Music@dannavarro.com if you want more information on that stuff, because I love sharing this. These pieces, and there's others. You know, we've already talked about the pop musicians like Joni and Cat Stevens and stuff. The Cold Concerts by Keith Jarrett comes from the same place. The Ballads album by John Coltrane comes from the same place. Chet Baker Sings comes from the same place. Several songs on the first album by the Blue Nile. Easter Parade. You know, Easter Parade, Automobile Noise. Easter Parade is one of the most beautiful songs ever. I can't play it. The line of travel comes to a standstill, for the rain came out in the morning air. You'll have to find the rest yourself. I love you guys. I am happy to share more titles, like I say, and especially now. A lot of us are all alone. I'm all alone here. And I'm not going to be seeing people. I don't like that. But I'm not going to change it. I don't want to get anybody sick, and I don't want to get sick. So this is the music I put on. It's a little maudlin maybe, but they're not sad. They're pensive. And they go to a place where you can love being in that solitude and in that quiet. This is light some candles. This is sit in the bathtub. This is cool the fuck out and enjoy that feeling. I love you all. Thank you for your time. Thank you as always for listening. Going to take the day off tomorrow. Tonight, 5 p.m. California time, 8 p.m. Eastern for an hour at the ARK, A-R-K. On Facebook, it'll also be on my page because they're going to cross-post it over. I'm going to do an hour of music I want to do. And we go back to fan sets. We're going to extend fan sets yet one more week. And I believe that the final show will be Friday, August 7th. Can't believe we got this far. It's all because of you. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for the glorious, lovely energy. And for spending all this time with me. Well, wait a minute. I mean, we gotta... What would it sound like? Watching as the hearts go by, watching them as they fly, way up into the sky. All these hearts, they're here between you and we're all together now. We're all together now. Watching as the hearts go by. Watching as the hearts go by. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you Monday. Janice Ditchfield said.